everyone, welcome back to Notier's Frontiers Diaries. So this is the season finale of our crazy trip across the United States this summer.
A whole bunch of wonder and excitement and BDRs and
bike
expos.
breakdowns.
Yeah. But a lot of saviors along the way, so
Yes.
Thanks to each and every one of you who assisted us as we bumped and skidded and stalled and died and towed our way across the states.
And we were last time on the Northeast BDR. We were really excited to do a lot of it. And we were having a fantastic day. We had just fallen and I hit my lip against the windshield, but it was this one-time freak thing, and we did decide to take it easy for the rest of the day by taking a detour around a road that
they classified as more difficult than, just the standard BDR.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of different skill levels as you progress northeast up to Maine. Some of the terrain gets progressively harder and harder.
Yeah.
But we did find I was supposed to reroute us, which I failed to do. And before we even realized, we had found ourselves at this hill of doom, quote unquote.
You gotta get off.
This is the easy path?
But when I looked at the map, I was like, well, we're almost all the way through where they reverted us. So we'd have to go all the way back and around, or else, it's hard, but let's just chug up this hill and see what happens, and then maybe that will be the worst of it and we can continue on.
Exactly. And there were a couple problems with the road. Loose gravel, biggish rocks.
All covered by leaves.
Yeah, that was really
I
part of
couldn't
the
pick a
tricky
line,
bit.
and usually my cheat code is to hang out as far onto the edge of the road as possible, because that's where, big vehicles aren't tearing up the ground beneath. So, it's like the path less taken, and so therefore it should be the most compact and stable. And it just wasn't working out for me. And so we were chugging up this mountain.
Yeah, the other thing was that it was steep.
It was.
This was the steepest section that we had been on so far. And it was just steep up, 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 up.
Yeah. I mean, the bike, the front tire kept on bouncing. The rear tire kept on spinning. And so I didn't have, I wasn't going 10, 15 miles an hour just because I just couldn't. And so I didn't have enough momentum. And, I'd drop the bike and it'd be like, this sucks,
Yeah, the first time I was on it, we fell. It was fine.
Yeah.
But after that, I was like, okay, maybe I should get off, and you can have less weight on the bike and go at it alone. I can give a push if needed.
Well, I mean, you take off 105 pounds, the bike is still...
It's still quite heavy.
It's still quite heavy. Like, you're not
right.
the camel that broke anything, or the straw that broke the camel's back.
No, but I think it is a little bit easier for you to maneuver without me on.
Yeah. But, that didn't...
No.
That wasn't the case.
You
I
still
made it
dropped it.
20 yards up, and then I dropped it again.
Yeah.
And then she'd stumble up the hill, and she's, gasping for breath, and help me pick it up again. And then I'd launch up, and I got a good 100, 200 yards the second time. I got pretty far up. And then I dropped the bike, and I didn't want to pick it up on myself because I had exhausted a lot of energy just trying to maintain the bike, not only having picked it up previously.
Yeah.
But Marisa gets up, we right the bike upwards, and then error codes, and it won't start.
It doesn't start.
And it's just like, oh no. I mean, this was just our hopes and dreams of the BDR just coming crashing down. And it's just...
I mean, this is the same problem that we had been dealing
Just
with
this reoccurring
all
thing
summer.
that we hadn't been able to fix. It's been into dealerships. They've taken crap apart. They've sprayed crap. They've
Been
adjusted
towed.
throttle bodies. They've, you know, and it's just, I had enough. I was just like, all right, this bike is not in a condition where we can continue anymore.
It's
and
not healthy, and it's trying to tell us that, and we keep pushing it and pushing it.
Throttle position sensor. Throttle position. In the back country that we were, at least I could go downhill. Like if it was just flat, that would suck because it'd be Marisa and I just pushing it to God knows who where.
Right.
And we had just passed these hikers, and they were walking back down to their car. And so Marisa and I wibbled and wobbled the bike facing downwards, and I got on, I threw it in neutral, and I hoped that, you know, I'd get enough momentum just to battle through. Gravity assist when, you know, it comes to momentum.
But in that moment when it wouldn't start, I just remember thinking, like, this is really bad. I mean, we're not that far from society, and I checked my phone and I had cell service, and I was like, thank goodness. But it was about to be night. It looked like it was about to rain, and our bike was just completely
stalled out, dead
again.
So my hope was that I can get down the mountainside to where these people parked, and then ask them for help if they came to a tow truck or if they live nearby or whatever the case may be. But the first step in resolving this problem was to get off of this mountain.
I felt very emotionally not as strong as I had been in other breakdowns.
I was just
this
fed
summer.
up. This was just annoying.
I felt so hopeless.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't hopeless because you were able to use your momentum to coast it down the mountain.
Well, I got on and I bumped and I bobbled and, you know, I tried to pick a course that, whatever. And I finally got all the way down. I ended up passing and like just did a drive-by, hey, I'll see you on the bottom to these hikers. Marisa had to walk all the way back down. But I didn't want to stop to be like, hey, when we get to the bottom, you know, can we figure it? So as the hikers are walking by, I was like, the bike's totally screwed, but I'll see you at the bottom type thing. You know, and I finally get all the way down and then onto the concrete road that butts up against, you know, this rocky, crappy terrain that goes up into the woods. And I figured I got 10, 15 minutes before Marisa makes an appearance.
Yeah, it took me a while. And honestly, I took my time just because...
There's no rush.
There was a rush because night was coming and it did look like it was going to rain. I saw you there trying to work things out with the motorcycle. I watched you again disconnect the battery.
We had more bubbly water, which is always that's helpful.
Yes, we've also found during breakdowns that chocolate can help fix things. But you must have done something incredible.
I don't know what that guy did.
The bike did fall on this side once. That's definitely oil. That's the air box. So it could be leaking out of the air box. I'd just rather find out where we're going to be tonight before I start taking all of this apart.
Yeah.
Taking this apart.
I just did my routine of things that I know how to do to maybe try to trick the ECU into thinking everything is good until it relearns that the bike is a limping horse. But I got it to start.
Yeah.
And I didn't even want to test the kickstand thing. I didn't want to test anything. I just wanted...
It was running.
I was like, let's leave it running. Let's put all of our gear back on because we had taken our jackets off and stuff. And like at that moment, it started to rain. And like not just rain.
Yeah,
but
this was not a normal...
It was like,
rain.
it went from no precipitation to
Full-on buckets.
God's wrath.
Came on so quick. You didn't even have time to zip up your jacket.
I was already
We were
set.
like, woo, we gotta go.
Yeah.
And I had thankfully already looked up on my phone a hotel in the nearest major town. It was called Kingston. So we were like, all right, we're just gonna head to Kingston. It was a little bit of a ways away, but everything was. I mean, we were in the middle of nowhere in New York State.
No stop for gas, no nothing. Just keep going.
You barely were able to get your jacket. You had to stop just very quickly, get your jacket zipped up because this rain was coming down. But it didn't even matter to zip up your jacket at that point because this was one of those, it doesn't matter what your gear is, you are going to get soaked types of rains.
You know, we pull in, they have a little awning.
We were able to get the motorcycle mostly out of the rain. It was coming down in sheets. It was cats and dogs. It was every worst rainstorm you could imagine.
All combined,
But we went in soaking into that main lobby and we're like, do you have a room? Like, please say yes. It doesn't matter what it costs. Like, we're staying here. And they did. We were so thankful. We brought in all of our sopping wet gear
Everything
into
was just
this
wet. They had
room.
like
I felt so bad.
this 5 foot by 5 foot section that was like the entry to the room. That was like, you know, the cheesy laminate flooring.
That was not carpeted. And so we just piled everything on that.
And they had a heater, and like that's our like, you know, way of drying clothes out, and our gloves and our like nothing was going to be dry by the next morning. But
we started talking about what our next step would be, because our original plan had been to do as much of the BDR as we could. We really wanted to at least get up Mount Washington in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
We had been really excited for that.
Hunting
I had a friend I wanted
colors.
to see in Vermont. There was
still
so
a lot
much
more to do.
But the motorcycle was telling us over and over again that it needed some major
Needed to be
work.
put down.
It needed a break, possible retirement.
But like, I mean, it was tough, but as we're having a conversation, I was just like, I'm not bringing it anywhere further north. We're going further and further away from home. It's just...
It was getting colder and colder. The weather was turning on us as well.
Yeah.
And we still had that whole ride back to Chicago on the motorcycle.
On a good day would take, 3 days, was it?
Yeah. But it's all highways. That means it's cold, windy. The colder it got, the more that bit was going to be not pleasant.
Yeah.
So we decided that for many reasons, it was time to go back.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the enjoyment of motorcycle travel, you know, and everybody has their hiccups. And I think if you've gone around town to around your state to around your country to, you know, like everybody has experienced a breakdown or something that goes wrong. And we've survived multiple of those scenarios. We've gotten through with the assistance of others, sometimes relying only on what we were able to perform to get through some really hard stuff. So this isn't like, hey, we hit a snag in the road and gave up and threw our hands up. But this was, all right, this is the 10th time the bike just won't start. There's an intelligent thing to do of just not continuing on when all the signs are screaming, hey, man, live to see another day, you know. So, you know, after a half-hour conversation, we decided to
it was time
to retreat.
Yes.
This would be a short-term stint. We already knew that over the winter we were going to get jobs and save up so we can do Alaska and then work another winter and head over to Europe. So
yes, and then Central Asia. I mean, we have plans.
There are a lot of bright, sunny days ahead of us. It just happened that we were on a cold, stormy night with a you know, busted up motorcycle, and it was just like, let's just make sure that we don't have to pay $600 to get the bike towed from New York to
$600.
I don't know.
It'd be a lot more than that. It would be a ton more. So yeah, it was functioning at this moment in time. We decided, let's get it home. It was also nice to kind of reflect back on our trip and to think, we've had so many good times this summer. We've seen so many incredible things that it doesn't matter, you know, if we go home right now this very second. It has all been worth it.
But just a little going down the back road. Another stop along the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Gorgeous. I think freedom is really important to us. And I thought our adventures are going to be over. You know, we're going to just be in Chicago in no time, as fast as we can, and that'll be the end. But as we got to almost the border of Pennsylvania and Ohio, we stayed the night in a hotel. You were about to take a shower and you said, Marisa, what is this? You felt something on kind of like the lower shoulder blade area.
Right here-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like a skin tag or something gross. I'm getting old, so there's weird things that happen to my body now. But Marisa looked at it and was like, oh,
and I
no.
did the worst thing ever. I was like,
oh no! And I was like, what is this? What's going on?
what?
A tick bite that I got somewhere in the Northeast, and we're hoping it's not Lyme disease, so fingers crossed. We're on our way to go to a quick care to get some antibiotics, so hopefully it's...
Last night he was like, what is this? And I looked at that and kind of freaked out, and yeah, we're just hoping that if it is Lyme disease, we can get it treated right away and he doesn't have, hopefully, any lasting effects. So, wish us luck.
I've had like a flesh-eating disease.
Yeah, he had African tick bite fever.
Yeah.
From 2 different ticks in Africa when we were in South Africa and Lesotho.
Flesh-eating disease. So
It
wasn't the
necrosis.
worst tick bite I've had. Ticks love. I must taste delicious.
No, but this one looked black.
And I had a bullseye, and so Marissa thought right away, like, you got Lyme disease, dude.
Well, I thought it could be a bullseye, but then what's up with the black part? I was just thinking Lyme disease, like...
Plus flesh-eating disease.
Right, like, what is this? What is going on?
I get all the things.
No matter what, we have to figure this out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So that night we started calling and looking up different immediate care centers in the area. The next morning we headed off right away to one in Akron, Ohio. And I've never been to this town before, but it's a really nice town.
It's pretty, but I had other things on my mind.
Yeah, we were quite concerned that maybe you had Lyme disease. I'd gotten the tick out, but while
Most
I got
of
it was so deep in there, and all I could think about the whole time was how, yes, we had been walking in very tall grasses while we had been doing the Northeast BDR. Remember that valley with like the God
flowing,
rays coming down, and there were these beautiful grasses, and I was like, ooh, take a picture of that. And Tim had been walking through these tall grasses.
But I had layers upon layers. It's not like I was naked rolling down hills.
Apparently, it was a deer tick too that he had on him.
Yeah.
Female. It just was all the signs that he could have Lyme disease. I thought, this is quite serious. Let's get him to a doctor as soon as possible.
And we got into the immediate care place, and I got admitted right away, and that was nice.
That was nice.
They looked at it, and she was like, yeah, here's some antibiotics that you should probably take. And she said, did your wife get it all out? And I said, I have no idea. And she looked at it, and she took tweezers and just started grabbing and pulling, and I get the twitchy face, like it's hitting nerves, and then she said, it's deep in there, like I don't know how deep ticks can dig their heads into human flesh, but she was like, for me to get it out more, I might have to use a scalpel. And I was like, awesome. I was like, this is already
surgery.
This is already all beat up and red and hurt, and I was like, just get all of this thing out. She did confirm that it did not look like Lyme disease, but it was massively, disgustedly infected, and it was like dead stuff around it. And so she took the scalpel and cut me, and was trying to ply stuff out, and it took her like 20 minutes. She called me brave, which was really nice.
You were brave, because that's not something anyone wants to go through.
No, this is not how my motorcycle adventure was to end. With a dead bike, stuck on a mountain, then getting trapped in rain.
Yeah,
home sounds nice.
But she dug out a whole chunk of your flesh.
Yeah, gave me a whole bunch of goopy, oozy stuff to put on it, ointment,
and then all sorts of pills to take.
That I was popping.
And we headed home.
Yeah.
From there, we headed across Ohio, and we spent the night in Fort Wayne, Indiana. for
We were looking
either.
for cheap stuff, so let
Yeah.
that be an asterisk on the next
I'm
statement
sure
we
Fort
say.
Wayne is a lovely place to be.
Where
but
we stayed within it, we did not. Like
it was very bad.
Yeah, I asked the hotel guy because he noticed my KTM and made fun of me because he had a Beamer, and I was like, whatever. I was like, is it safe around here? He assures me that the place is safe, and I asked him, like, is there any crime or anything around here? Because I didn't want to be like too insistent, but there was definitely not like it was kind of a sketchy part of town. And he said, well, there is a lot of foot traffic to the strip club next door of some shady people, and I was just like, oh yeah.
But the windows were bolted down.
Yeah. It was not, yeah.
Yeah, you had to have several key cards in order to get through several doors. They had the necessary precautions. Signs everywhere saying, don't leave anything in your vehicle. And it's like, oh.
Our whole vehicle is,
Yeah, it's not something we can do. We can't just lock it. But everything was fine.
Everything was fine.
The night went fine. And the next day, it was only a few hours to Chicago.
So I took my bike over to a buddy of mine's house, and we blew it up into a bunch of different pieces. And it's one of those things where either you can try to hopefully blindly fix a couple things in hopes that was the problem, or it needs a complete rebuild from the bottom up. ECU, wiring harnesses, throttle bodies, just everything. And it's just the cost of that for new parts, because I didn't want to buy a bunch of used parts off eBay, which is something that you can do. But you buy, used throttle bodies off eBay, who know, you're like, why are they selling them? What bike did that come? How many miles were on them? Pistons, and there's got to have the correlating piston rings, and there's a whole lot of things that you're risking when you buy used. And when you buy new, I mean, it all added up to like $4,000, and then I'd have to pay somebody $1,000, if not more, to help me install it all. And so the long and the short, which is the sad truth that I think everybody out there saw coming, is that we are retiring Pegasus. She will be scrapped for parts for any new bike that we purchase, but but that's the plan now. Is we have our eyes set on a used KTM 1190, a 2015. With only 15,000 miles on her, so she's just in her breaking in stage.
Yes.
But yeah, if you want to help push us along, make sure we get to Alaska. Please do buy some books, or check out our Patreon page, or something that's completely free and awesome is just subscribe and watch our videos. Because,
yes, even that really makes a difference.
Yeah. So this isn't a pitch to. We've made this life decision, and we know it's our responsibility.
Absolutely.
But if you want to help push us along, please do check out some of the links down below.
And in our next episode that we'll be making, we're going to be journeying back into the past and back to our time in Central America, which is really kind of the beginning of this great trip that we've been on through 3 different continents. And so we left off last time in Guatemala.
Kind of goes through the book that I wrote, Two Up and Overloaded. So it's kind of a visual summary of the book. So if you've read the book, this was kind of a good complimentary addition to it that hopefully you enjoy. Again, we'll throw the link down below. So please check that out and join us next time to delve into a different part of the world with us.
Thank you so much. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give us a big thumbs up, and we will be seeing you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Bye.